$46 million flooding in from Chris, bringing in private investors hot off the presses, everybody. Stay tuned. More after these messages. Today's video has been brought to you by the generous patrons of The Games who make continued content on The Games possible. The Games patrons enjoy monthly giveaways like Steam gift cards, Star Citizen packages, and any game that you want giveaways. Please consider donating just $1 if in any way you enjoyed The Games content. Thank you. That's right, everyone. We have a letter from the chairman here, Chris himself, stating that he has gotten third-party investor money, telling people, don't worry, relax. You know, we want the game to become a reality, and this is what we're going to have to do to seek this type of funding to make the game become a reality. This is one thing that we felt was necessary. And because the financials have been listed on Companies House, which we talked about last week, you can check that video out in that particular card there. He is just saying, hey, don't worry about it. Here it is. It's all public. Here's our numbers. Here's our financials. Gives you a link to it. He discusses the financials and is very open. Now, whether or not, you know, a teaspoon of sugar makes medicine go down, or if we're having a serious account here of what's going on is kind of up to you guys. But it looks really fairly interesting to see. He's open and he's saying, here, look at what we have, and this is why we're looking for third-party funding. Now, I'll put all the links down below in the description for you guys to kind of go over, but some people are concerned about this. Like, some people are like freaking out in forums like, oh my god, you know, should we go after Chris now with torches and pitchforks? there's article on a particular site called WCCF Tech that releases the names of the people who are the investors. Clive and Keith Calder, who's represented by a gentleman named Dan Offner, and Eline Klein, who is another investor stepping in, who is Chris's friend, and that essentially they've listed 113,000 new shares. Of course, we know that these are privately owned shares. These aren't publicly traded. SIG is not a public company, so this is all privately done with private investors. And, you know, Chris explains in his letter to everyone that, you know, this is what he feels is needed. And he thought about this long and hard. He didn't want to go to like a mainstream publisher, and he wanted this money, and that they have a date of 2020 for Squadron 42 to come out, and that he felt this was needed to continue forward to get that push to release date, especially with Squadron 42, because we're expecting the numbers to be huge on Squadron 42. They need Squadron 42 to come out. But interestingly enough, looking at the financials, you guys can check it in the link below. It did give me a little bit of cause for concern, but what made me feel a little bit better was that Chris was very transparent about all this and just gave us what we were looking for. But like I said, some people are going to say, are these really the numbers or not? I personally think that he's being very, I'm getting messages like crazy about this. So it's been going off the hook here on The Games, because we're covering a lot of the financials. I don't want to get too much in valuation right now. I haven't had the time to really pour over the details, but there may be a bit of cause for concern, but I like the way in which Chris is handling it. So personally, as far as the game is concerned, it is feeling much more stable. It is feeling like a game. And you know, like ever since OCS come out, people had very good experiences with the PEO, and I don't really think personally that there's much cause for concern right now. I will continue to update everybody as to what exactly is, you know, my feelings towards, you know, if the game's going to become a reality or not moving forward. I still am pretty positive to this point. You know, this is kind of the road to get to where it needs to be to become a game. And we're talking about a 10% sale of SIG. So 10% sale of SIG means that the people who are invested have a 10% say into, you know, the decision-making process, and that's not that big of a chunk really. And you know, because that this was $46 million, people are net valuing or looking at the valuation of SIG as a whole, as a company, around the $400+ million mark, which is really interesting, considering that like we have backed this game as personal funders over $200 million mark, and that the actual valuation of the company, as according to this article by WCCF Tech here, they're saying is the valuation would be around 400 million. Not quite sure what we can take from that, is if that's, you know, how close they are to actual valuation on that. But I would say just be careful where you're getting your information from, everybody. Be careful what you're going to hear as far as like people speculating. You know, there's going to be a lot of speculation. This article talks about that as well. I agree with the author of this particular article. You're going to hear a lot of people get into that. I'm not really getting into that yet. I probably will going forward, but I would just tell you, so many people, I'm so sorry, but I'm like, so many people are telling me right now, like, dude, the games, you got to check this out. You got to check this out. So I thought it was worthy of putting on the channel. I want to update you guys. You can find these articles down below in the description. There's more if you look at the card. If you go to the channel, we talked about this last week. We were one of the first people to break this particular news, where they actually did file it. You can look at the company's house filings, which are on that particular video with all the links there. They give you, you know, exactly what happened to the dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So really interesting, and would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Most likely going to continue following what's happening here. This is really big news, and I'm going to get ready to do an ATV live, so I will see those of you there for the ATV. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about this on that ATV episode. Thanks everybody for watching here on The Games. I will see you on the next vid.